Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. Today's video is going to be my top 10 favorite purple eyeshadows, as requested. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. If you're into eyeshadow palettes, essence and Catrice, and getting the use out of your makeup the way that I am, then definitely stay tuned, because today we're going to be talking about my favorite shades. I decided in 2023 to do a series where I'm going to be talking about my favorite eyeshadow shades in a certain color and just give you my top 10. So some people are like, but what about this shade? But what about this shade? Or where are your singles? They are my top 10 favorites in this particular color, people. That doesn't mean I don't like the other things I have. That doesn't mean that my singles are forgotten. Today we have quite a few singles because today we're talking purples, and purple is actually a shade I find very difficult to determine what I like, but we'll get into that in a minute. For now, you just need to know that I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, which greatly skews my makeup preferences. And because I've been buying, trying, and reviewing makeup for more than a decade, I also have some very strong favorites, so I hope you're here for the ride. Join the Snow Angel Club by clicking the subscribe button down below. So yes, let me first talk about purple. So you wanted this video, and I actually had planned this video for a couple of months down the line because I was like, I don't know. I really don't know, because purple is so difficult to get right. In theory, it works because it's a blend of blue and red. Then we get a purple. But there are so many different renditions of a purple. So I'm gonna have to disappoint some people, but this is not gonna go into lilacs or too many lavender shades. There are a few here. There are no periwinkles in here because those are blues in my head. I've decided to just go for purple. What I consider to be a purple. And we all know I love a good cool tone, so no, there are hardly going to be any warm tone purples in here because I don't use those. Now, why did I struggle finding purples? Because purple is an incredibly difficult eyeshadow to do right. Yes, it is. Yeah. So in terms of like colors that are made in the makeup sphere, purple is notoriously hard to get right. Now, the past couple of years, this hasn't been such a big issue, but I remember in the early YouTube days, everybody was saying how it was so difficult to create neons, pastels, and purples. Like, purples were the bane of every single makeup brand's existence, and brands that could do a really good purple were praised into the high heavens. Because purple is just something in the pigments that you need to blend it. And I think in recent years, we've gotten a little further in makeup techniques. And with that, I mean not the way you apply things, but like how things are made in the makeup world, that we have definitely gotten more, better, and interesting purples. So there are a couple of things here that I haven't even put on my face, but because I bought that thing for that purple shade, they need a mention here. So I've selected 10 purples that I like. These aren't going to be mauve. These aren't going to be lilac. They're not going to be violet. They're going to be purple. And I threw in something that could be a lavender if you want to. But most of it is true bang on purples. Because if I think of the word purple, then I think of these shades in my collection. Now, before we get to the 10 palettes I wanted to mention, I have to have this in here for a minute, because the new Essence Marrakesh palette, I already managed to play with this and do some looks with it, and it actually was a surprise to me. So I do want to throw out this purple here. It's more of a plum than a purple to me. I don't consider plums to be purples, but I know that a lot of people want to know how I feel about this palette, and this was pretty good. I mean, I don't need it in my personal collection, but as far as like a neutral tone palette with a pop of purple goes, this is good. And the matte black in here, wow, you're gonna see it in my upcoming eyeshadow palette review, which should be up about a week and a half from now. Still playing with some other palettes, case in point what's on my eyes today, but this is a lovely, lovely little thing. So I know some people would want to hear it, and it's actually pretty decent. First things first, the smallest bit and the newest bit. So this one I haven't tried, but I will be trying it in April. The Petit for Lavande. And of course that's French for lavender, so that you think this has lavender shades. But it has this. This is the reason why I wanted to own this palette. this matte. And there aren't going to be a lot of mattes as well in this video. It's a lot of shimmer. But like this, I would consider a lavender. This is a purple. And it's a very vibrant purple. It's got a lot of blue running through it as well. And it is quite light and vibrant. So it has quite a strong white base actually. So to me, this would be more like, this is a lavender, this is a lilac. It's got a lot of pink running through it. So purples really can pull differently depending on how they're blended. And those tend to be my favorite shades to begin with. But yeah, this one from Viseart. Yes, that's going to be like the lightest thing in the entire video. Another odd one out is the shimmer in the Kaleidos Glowing Iris palette. So this is from their Smokiness. No, it's called the Glowing Iris collection. What was the collection called? I don't remember. That shimmer. These are blues. But this shimmer. This is that grayish, dirty, lilac-y kind of shade that I love. So if we're going to go lilac, we're going to go this. And this is the only lilac in the entire video. But yeah, this shade, when I put it on, it's just in the wrong palette. I wanted to shift the shimmer from this palette into the other Kaleidos palette because that has the more grungy, gray-toned, purpley, mauve tone leaning shades in the matte category. So I actually want this shade in the other palette, which was the Flowing Haze, I believe. That one, I think that shade would have gone better in the other one. But yeah, that way you buy both. I know why they do this. But yeah, this shade, I was going through my makeup collection. I was like, yes, it's very gray heavy. I was gonna tell you there were gonna be cool tone purples in here. This is stunning. This all over the lid, great. It's just not going to look very purple on most people, I think. Then the next purple is going to be from the Huda Beauty Purple Haze palette. So I don't actually have a lot of purples in palettes that I wanted to recommend. But in here, we get some more like gray toned, and then especially that purple. I also like the matte. I like all three, but for the sake of the video, I'm just gonna go in with this one. Can I hold it so that we can actually see the color? Thank you, Micah. This one. That one I really like. So it's, again, it's warmer than anything else I've selected because it's a Huda Beauty palette, and Huda Beauty only does warm tone things, it seems, save for the rose quartz. But this one I do really like, and I really like how this entire palette comes together. I know that a lot of people were fans of the Haze palettes because the Purple Haze wasn't purple enough to them, the Khaki Haze wasn't khaki enough to them. But it's a Haze palette. It's supposed to only give you a hint of that color. And that's exactly what this does. It gives you a hint of that color, and that's why I like it. It's not super vibrant. It's got a nice bit of depth to it that I like, and this is the kind of purple that goes really well with a neutral leaning look. So if you this is the kind of purple that goes really well with other neutrals, especially if they're more warm toned like this. This is really pretty. Another Viseart palette, and my favorite purple palette, the Viseart Violette Étendu. Now, as far as like single purple shades go though, there isn't a lot I like here. My favorite shade in the palette is this, but I don't consider that to be a purple. This is more of like it's a neutral with a purple undertone, which doesn't count, but I do like how we get these two shades in the bottom, and I think I want to go for this blue-purple sort of shimmer thing here. I like the matte as well, but this matte isn't as buttery smooth as the matte in the Lavande, I feel. I feel that this is a bit more scratchy, and that's the thing with a lot of purples, that they very often didn't have that like really lovely pigmentation. But this is the kind of purple that I love as well, with that blue, it's almost like a blurple, but not quite. So blurple is like when there's a lot of blue in it. But this is a really nice blue tone purple, leaning purple, and royal purple is where it's at. When you ask me, Micah, your top 10 favorite purples, I go for royal purple. That's it. Just royal purple across the board that's my sweet spot, and this is one of them. And another great purple palette is the Flight Club palette from Menagerie, but I did change mine. So there are a couple of shades in here. There were some warm tone neutrals in here. And I took it out because I popped some blue tones in there from the violet ink. In here, we get a lot of really great purple shimmers, but the only one that I'm like, yes, that's a great purple is this one. I told you, royal purple is where it's at for me, this one. Something like this I feel isn't even, like, it's not even a purple, it's a berry. This is that sort of blue, like blurple thing that I do like, but I don't really necessarily consider it a true purple. You can just tell that both of these have a you can just tell that both of these have a lot of pink running through it. Same for something like this. These lean more towards the periwinkle category. So that really only leaves this as a true actual purple in here. And that has been my issue with this palette actually, that the purples weren't purple enough. Do I make any sense? This is why when you guys started requesting my top 10 favorite purple shades, I was like, I'll do it, but you're not gonna like it. This is the only shade I truly love in this palette. It's called Hanging Out. We need to go into singles because I think if you want to find good purple singles, Purple Shadow is just much better if you buy it one off rather than in a palette. There's a reason why I've only kept like 2 purple palettes, which is the Menagerie and the Viseart, around in my entire makeup collection. Because a lot of purple palettes just don't get it right for me personally. So that's why I don't have that many in actual palettes, but I've got a couple in my Lethal Cosmetics selection here. And my favorite purple by Lethal is this guy here in the bottom. Like that thing is so stunning. Let me see what it's called. Can I take it out? I can. This is the shade Spirit from Lethal Cosmetics. Again, you can see how much blue it has. I love it. Then in my Glamshop palette, I have the shade Balanga right here, which is called Dance something in English. Like, yeah. They're all gonna look the same at this point because they are. Because if I think purple, I think of that. Then one that I think looks really stunning in the pan is in this shimmer palette, and it's this guy right here from Looxi Beauty. It's called Highroller, and it's got a really interesting undertone to it. So, but again, you can see how blue it is. Like, it doesn't have a hint of red in it almost, even though it's a mix of red and blue, of course. So yeah, Looxi Beauty Highroller I really like. And I like my sort of grungy purples, the gray toned ones. And I have this guy right here from Sydney Grace. This is the shade Rushed. I accidentally stuck my fingernail in there one day. But this is a really nice, like, deeper grayish tone purple. And that's the thing, like, I find cool tone purples really difficult to find when they get deeper. Deep plums, we've got a million of, but they have a lot of red. Or they pull very wine-esque with, like, a lot of brown running through it. But something like, can anybody just make me like a matte in this sort of level of gray tone purple? And then a matte. I don't think it exists. If you have any suggestions, let me know, because that's what I'm still looking for. And then in my blue-green purple palette, the shade I love in here is actually more of a pinky leaning one, which is this guy. And it's called Deliverer, if I'm not mistaken. It's also by Sydney Grace. Yes, Deliverer. And I don't think I've ever really put it in a palette yet, but it's really pretty. And you can just see, like here, you can really see the difference between like cooler tone purples and warm tone purples. So these are very warm toned, and these are all very cool toned. So yeah, those are the shades I love the most. My favorite, top 10 favorite purples. I hope I lived up to your expectations. I'm pretty sure I didn't. Because this is just what I think of when I think purples. I don't think of the really soft, lilac-y things. If I think of a purple, I think that vibrant royal purple. That's what I want from a purple look. And that's why I struggle, because they're so hard to find, really good ones. They're just so hard to find. So yeah, those are my top 10 favorite purples. I hope the rant wasn't too much for you guys to take. I hope it was still helpful. because I think that maybe because purples are like good purples and finding them is so difficult that's why you wanted me to do this video in the first place. Who knows? I switched this video idea around with doing navy shadows, so I'm going to do that when I was supposed to do purples, which was for June. And next month I plan on doing pastels, but please also leave me your suggestions in the comments down below. I have technically already planned all of these out towards the end of the year, because I do have a kind of sense of like what I do have enough of in my collection to be able to do a top 10. So please don't ask for my favorite yellow shadows because I only have like one. And it's a pastel, so you'll see it next month. Because I don't have that much yellow shadow, so that's just not gonna be feasible for me. So yes, thank you so very much for joining me today. Thumbs up the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more by me. Check out some of the links in the description box down below. I have some affiliate links there as well. And I would very greatly appreciate it if you could shop through some of those so that, you know, you can support the channel that way as well if you want to. You don't have to, but I would greatly appreciate it if you can. And then that's it for me for today. Thank you so very much for watching. And then I hope you'd like to stay tuned for more. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.